All right, welcome to our Dye CZR review. You said you saw a good video
Yes.
when you were watching reviews, which is cool.
Yes.
Because I watched a bunch of them, 4 or 5, and they were decent videos from good people, but they were more like feature reviews to me. You know, stuff you could really get by just reading about it. It doesn't really tell you, it doesn't really tell you how it performs. And it's stuff that's features that drive me crazy, like it's got a 14-inch barrel. Who cares? Like anybody that's getting into this stuff is going to replace their barrel eventually, get inserts, or like the feed neck. Like who cares? Like nobody's feed neck is breaking anymore.
No.
Yeah. So I've been wanting to have you do this because you've been playing with this marker for 8 months. Your girlfriend has this marker, so you've been maintaining both of them for that same amount of time. And you guys probably all remember Cam from all of our videos.
Yes,
but I'm going to let him take it away from here because he's the guy that knows all about the CZR.
So, Dye CZR. This is the third or fourth iteration of the Rise platform, and they're all kind of the same. You'll see Rise Maxes on sale on eBay or Craigslist. The Proto Rise is also the same thing. It comes with everything you need to maintain this marker for probably 3 months maybe. It comes with a tube of lube, which doesn't necessarily work when it's cold. We'll get back to that. It comes with O-rings, which there's not necessarily enough of them to last you a very long time, but there's enough to get you started. It comes with Allen keys so you can service all of it, and a battery. So once you get a hopper and a tank, you can kind of just run with it. Retails for $325 plus tax or shipping if you have to pay those. Comes with open it up, comes with foam. These used to come with a case, now they don't, which is a cost-cutting thing, and that'll also be a thing we talk about later. It does come with the 2-piece barrel, which I like, but the point of a 2-piece barrel is you can change the control bore size, and it only comes with one, and I don't think you can buy others of the same system, so it's kind of pointless. But it's a 2-piece barrel, so it's cool. Goes together like that. Screws in. It's very easy. There are a couple features of this gun that are very cool, and there are some that are kind of lame. This feed neck I needed to tighten just right off the bat. It doesn't have a thumb wheel, which is fine. It just, how many hoppers do you have? How many hoppers do you have? Yeah, I have 2. But there's only one on the gun at a time, so if I have to take it off, I just undo the lever on it, and I just undo the lever on it, and I pull my hopper off. Easy peasy. It comes with this I-pipe system that, yes. It comes with this I-pipe system that is fairly clever, but it also causes its own problems, which we'll get to later. And this ASA can sometimes be a pain in terms of getting it on all the way. Like some people, there's not a detent or a bump here. Like on the DSR, there's a little bump here. But with this, it just kind of gets tight with how this hump is machined into the ASA. So one of the things my girlfriend does all the time is she turns the ASA onto here, and this isn't on all the way. You've got to go past that and keep it flat, and then it's on. Overall, it's a good marker for the price point, but there are some compromises made to get the package overall to that price point of $325, and there are some overall decisions about this gun that puts it into a category that's has more performance than an EMAC, has more performance than a 98, or some of the like Azotin guns or the Spiders or things like that. This is better than those guns, but it comes with some drawbacks. Like there are some decisions about how this gun is put together that let Dye hit that 325 price point, but are difficult for you as a user. So first of all, some of these O-rings are not the best quality. When you take the bolt out, it's 2 turns out the back, 2 and a bit. This bolt is always a pain in the ass. The end cap will unthread from the back of the can every time you try to pull it out. And it's just hard to get out in general. So here's the bolt. This is a complicated bolt. It comes apart in 4 pieces. So when you do have to take it apart, it's fairly easy to get apart. But you have to take it apart a lot. When I got this, I played like half a day with it, and then one of the O-rings just died. I had to replace it. And this kit only comes with like 1 replacement for some of these O-rings. So once you go through that, you're kind of like stuck, and you got to buy a parts kit online. So there's $40 right there.
Oh, it's $40.
Yeah, for the medium-sized part kit. And it comes with, like, you can't buy just a replacement baggie of O-rings from Dye. You have to buy what they call the medium rebuild kit, and it comes with like 3 eye harnesses and like a replacement eye pipe and stuff like that. All kinds of like things that unless you like run over this gun with a truck, you won't have to replace. Like, I've never heard of anybody having their eyes go bad on this. It's just, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but like you have this eye pipe system in here to where you're keeping your eyes clean like all the time. This sits in between the paint and the breech and the actual eyes themselves. The one thing about this that wears is these detents. These darker blue parts are the actual detents for the ball, and those will wear out.
Can you point to the O-rings you had issues with, so somebody is...
Yes, so the first time we went out, first of all, this bolt has 13 O-rings on it. I think we counted earlier. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13 O-rings on it. So it's a lot. There's a lot of fail points in this bolt, which one of the conclusions of the other reviews we watched was that this is a beginner's price point gun, but not to where a beginner would know how to maintain this out of the gate. So you have to go into this knowing that it's going to be a lot of maintenance, and you'll probably need a set of picks, and you'll need a replacement O-ring kit, and all of these things. But once you have those things, it runs just fine. So the O-rings we had issues with out of the box were these 2 tailpiece O-rings here.
And that wasn't just this marker, that was your girlfriend's marker and
Yep.
my friend's marker.
Yep, so we had a sample size of 3 DSRs, not DSRs, 3 CZR. Pick up. We had 3 CZRs in our gang, and all of us had O-ring problems with these tail O-rings here. They're very small, they're delicate, and I think what was happening is when these were getting assembled, they were just like not taking good enough care of putting it all together. So the O-rings were like basically broken by the time they showed up.
And the symptom was there was air coming out of the back of your...
Yeah, so you'd gas up the gun, and there's like, you could put your thumb over this tailpiece and stop the hissing, essentially. It's a complicated bolt. It's got a lot of maintenance to it. And the eye pipe is great for keeping the eyes clean. The eye pipe is not good for keeping your bolt clean, because the way it works is this front O-ring here acts as a squeegee. It just goes through here, and keeps the eyes clean and fires the gun, but all the shit that you're squeegeeing does not just like end up on the other side of the breech and gets fired out of the gun. It sticks to this O-ring. So throughout the day, that can cause problems where as you build up more stuff on here, it ends up migrating back, which then works its way to the front of the bolt here, back behind this front O-ring, and then as the bolt travels through the can, you start picking up shit to where you start having stuff build up on the inside of this can.
And then what was the symptom of that?
So you would just have, basically you'd gas up the gun and you would just dump your tank out through the front of the bolt.
Aggressively?
Yeah, like my girlfriend like basically emptied her tank in 10 minutes. Like it's,
and that was just
it's
due
aggressive.
to like little leaf-sized bits of debris.
Yeah, it was
just
it was just a little speck of like a leaf that ended up in the pod or fell in through the top or whatever. Like, you know, we woods ball, so stuff shows up, but it's frustrating to have to take this whole bolt apart and clean all of it and put it back together, especially if it's like the first time you've tried to do it. Like the first couple times these bolts went down, I didn't have such a good sense for A, how it came apart, B, how it went together, and C, what caused what. I'm much better at figuring out what's wrong with this bolt now, so when it does go down, it's not quite as brutal. But the flip side of that is when you just start playing and you've had your marker for all of like a day, you've played like 2-3 points with it, and all of a sudden it's just dumping air out the front of the gun. That's a disheartening experience as a new paintball player, or somebody coming back to the sport after 5 years.
It would be pretty intimidating to take it apart out at the park too.
Yeah, like I've gotten to the point where I keep my tech mat just like I have another bag outside of my gear bag. I'm a mom, I have just so many purses. And I keep a couple pieces of headgear in there, a couple pods, and a tech mat, because I have gotten to the point where I have to take this gun apart so frequently that not having a tech mat is like nerve-wracking. It's because it's like if you drop a piece, it's just like on the ground and you don't know where it went, and you might find it and you might not find it, but if you bring a tech mat, everything should just stay on the tech mat. And it's a safety blanket made out of silicone.
It's good to have with this.
Yeah, you're definitely going to want to get one. Which I think is part of why the user experience on this was so frustrating. Like, there's a couple good things about it. Like, A, it's electronic, so you can ramp with it. It has a pretty good shot quality. There's a little bit of rise when you actually like get on it and hit 10.5 balls a second, but I think any marker for the price point is going to have issues like that. And it's just like the barrel's not that heavily ported.
That actually felt kind of satisfying to me, to be honest.
Yeah.
When I shot Chris's gun,
Mm-hmm.
it kind of felt satisfying. The shot quality, at least.
Yeah, the shot's good.
But there were some other things too, right? Like the bolt wasn't the end of your maintenance issues, right?
Right. Yep.
The don't leave the battery in thing, and then how difficult it is to get the ASA back tight.
Yeah. Yep. So one of the things that Dye did to keep their price down on the gun was to not use a lot of Loctite, because they have to, or thread locker, because you have to pay for that, and that adds costs and this and that. And I think that was a poor decision, but I'm not an engineer, so what do I know? The ASA on this marker is attached to a T-rail, which is just like a piece of nylon that is then attached to the actual bottom of the marker. And those are just held in with a couple of studs, bolts, I don't know what you would call them, but what would happen is over the course of a day or several days is the bolts attaching the ASA to the actual marker would come loose. And this is tight now, but the symptom of that would be that the tank would go back and forth and wiggle, essentially. And my girlfriend had it to the point where the ASA actually like had no tension against the T-rail at all. So the only thing holding it on there was this macro line, which is another thing that they use to save cost, is they have a macro line on here. And that's not just like not good to play with, but that's like a potential safety issue because this ASA is on when you're playing with it. So if this macro line comes off, you basically have a rocket on your hands and your tank's leaving. Sorry. So it's the way you fix that is you take the same Allen key you would use to take the bolts off of the side panel, and you kind of it's not a blind hole, but you can't like look into it. There's the battery compartments here so you can access it, but it's not like you can just see what you're doing. You kind of have to futz with it. I've done it several times and it's always a pain in the ass, like always. So the next time it happens, I'm just going to stick some blue Loctite on it and call it a day. And the other, you had mentioned a battery drain issue before. If you leave the battery in this gun, it will drain it over the week. I don't know why. The marker's off. It's just a parasitic drain issue where the electronics in the gun will just kind of sip the battery the entire time it's in there.
But it can be kind of confusing, I think, for everybody that dealt with it, because it felt like you were having a solenoid issue, because it would
Yep.
sort of want to fire because the battery was, retaining a tiny charge.
Yep. Yep. So it would go tick, 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 and you could hear the solenoid clicking, but it wasn't actually firing the gun because it wasn't opening the solenoid with enough gusto to actually get it to open and then close in the amount of time it's supposed to run.
So just take your battery out.
Take your battery out. Take your battery out. That's it.
Yeah.
The other thing is this ASA lever is kind of a pain. Did we already talk about that?
I don't know if we did. We can always edit it out if we did. And that's what actually happened to Kennedy.
Okay.
Dude, you gotta show these boots off though. Yeah, baby, yeah! See why we love him? All right.
So, things that new players are going to have a hard time with. The bolt is complicated. It requires a lot of maintenance from the jump because of compromises made to keep the price down. The ASA is finicky and you're not going to turn it on all the time, all the way, all the time. And you need to take the battery out or it'll die before the next time you go paintballing. So those are the things that I don't like about it. What I do like about it is the trigger is great. Right out of the box, it's good. You can ramp with it. You will actually be able to hit 10.5 balls a second pretty consistently. It's at a lower price point, so you can spend more money on the stuff that goes on it, like a barrel kit or a hopper, a nicer hopper, or a nicer tank. And I think if I had to do it all over again, I don't know that I wouldn't get a CZR, but I would go into it knowing, okay, I need to get an O-ring kit, because there's only like 1 or 2 replacement O-rings for every O-ring in the marker, and you will probably go through them a little bit faster than that. This is enough to get you started, but you're going to need more O-rings. The Dye Slick Lube does not work well in cold weather. And I got this in like September. So I think the first time we played with it was like October maybe. And like September, October was okay. And then November happened and the marker was like almost unusable. Like I'm pretty sure I pulled the 98 out at some point because it was just not cooperating. it was having issues, so had to retire it. But I got this tube of hater sauce, and it worked better in cold weather. So if I had to do it all over again, I would have gotten a nicer hopper, I would have gotten a nicer tank, I would have gotten an O-ring kit from the jump, I would have got a different lube from the jump. The barrel on this is fine. It's a 2-piece, but you can't buy different size backs for it, so I don't.
It's kind of a bummer.
Yeah, there's no advantage to having a 2-piece barrel like this. But overall, like, the barrel's fine, and the shot quality on this is fine. And like I said, the trigger's really good. So right out of the box, it was just exactly how I liked it. And I felt comfortable playing with it when it was working. The downside was it wasn't working a lot. But the things that kept breaking have since been addressed, and now it works just fine. 8 out of 10 would do again.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but like I said, there are things that you need to go into this gun knowing ahead of time. You need to know that it's probably going to have an O-ring leak. You need to know that Dye Slick Lube isn't great. You need to know to take the battery out. And once you get done with all those things, this marker is fine. It's more upkeep than an Axe or an Etha 2 or, God forbid, an Azotin or a 98. Like, that was the first paintball gun I got, was a Tippmann 98, and like, you could lube it if you wanted to, but you didn't even have to do that. You could just, like, you could throw fucking rocks at it and it would still shoot. Like, it didn't care. This gun cares a lot. This gun will get little pieces of debris from in the pod or on the paint or just like going in through the speed feed, and it'll end up on the paint, and then it'll end up in the eye pipe, and then it'll end up on your bolt, and then it'll work its way back into the can as you add more shit to the front of the bolt. Like,
so correct me if I'm wrong. From my perception of summarizing what you've said, is this is a really well priced entry-level speedball marker.
Yes.
That has a great shot quality, is fun to play with,
Yep.
but you're going to have to invest $40 on top of the entry price to begin with,
yeah,
just to have the O-rings and the kit with
Yeah,
the stuff
so
you don't
this-
need. You're going to have to get $12 worth of
Yep.
grease, so you're already $52 more
Yep.
into it, and you are going to have to learn how to maintain this marker.
Yep. And you're probably going to want to get an electronic hopper, and your first instinct's going to be, okay, I'll get a halo. Don't get a halo, because the halo's heavier than this actual marker is with a battery in it.
That thing's pretty light.
Yeah, it's a light enough gun. It's not as light as the DSR, but it's light enough. It's fine. It's way lighter than a Tippmann. So you need to get like a $40 parts kit. You need to get a $15 tube of lube. You need to get like $100 for, like, let's say you find an IR2 used, a Spire IR2 used for like $100. You're probably going to want to get a speed feed with it, which is another $30 on top of that. So you're looking at like an extra $100 worth of crap just to get this to a point where you can actually go play speedball for realsies with it. And maybe you have enough left over to actually do all of that, because this is a $325 marker. The Axe 2.0 is what? $450?
Yeah, in there. It's $435, $450.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there. Yeah.
So this will get you a little bit ahead of the game in terms of things, having more money left over to spend on other stuff, which is cool, but you're going to have to learn how to take care of it. And if you're a new player and you don't want to do that, that kind of sucks. That's it. I think that's all I got.
Cool. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Here you go. The CZR. I told you we would profit from listening to Cam on this. A great review. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Obviously, there's a lot of stuff there that you wanted to touch on that was larger than this, the CZR. So we're going to have you do another one for us on just paintball in general or gear, and definitely once you've got some shots on the DSR, congratulations.
Thank you.
We'll have to have you come back for that. Thanks, Cam.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Hope you learned something. Let's run it back.
Can you hand me the box?
You really want the box?
I do want.
Hey YouTube, remember to like and subscribe.
Get out of here with that.